For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. You know, the other day, Miranda and I were in Ashland on a Sunday afternoon, and we were a little bit hungry. And so we decided that we were going to eat something. And both of us came to the conclusion that what we wanted was chicken from Chick-Fil-A. And so we started to go up the hill. We came to the red light, and then we realized we're not going to be eating Chick-Fil-A today. Why? Because as their sign says, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. And because of that really insignificant experience, this very intriguing question came to my mind. Waffle House or Chick-fil-A? Now, I'm not asking you your preference as to which one you prefer. Now, if I were to poll this auditorium right now at this moment of time, I would imagine that if I asked how many of you prefer Waffle House, there would be many hands that go up. And if I were to ask you how many of you prefer Chick-fil-A, many hands would go up. I'm not asking you about your preference, whether you like Waffle House or Chick-fil-A better. What if I were to take this illustration and I were to put it in a statement? Chick-fil-A, Waffle House, and the church, and then I were to ask you the question, what do these three things, what do these three establishments have in common? And it all boils down to their purpose. In fact, what if I were to ask you this question? Which of these two restaurant establishments, Waffle House or Chick-fil-A, best embodies the church that belongs to Jesus Christ? Now, if I were to poll you on that particular question, I would imagine that almost all of you, if not all of you, would say that I believe Chick-fil-A best embodies the church that belongs to Jesus Christ. I mean, after all, it's God's chicken place. Many people say that there's going to be one on every single curb in heaven, right? Which one best embodies the church that belongs to Jesus Christ? What if I were to tell you that there's one thing about Chick-fil-A that I believe is detrimental to the Christian thought? Now, when you think about Chick-fil-A or when you think about Waffle House, I would imagine that your mind instantly goes to those things like transparency and friendliness and servitude and good food and social interaction. But I want to suggest to you this morning that I believe Chick-fil-A is really a terrible representative of Christianity. Now, I know that's nothing short of Southern blasphemy, but let me explain exactly what I'm saying. There is one aspect of Chick-fil-A that I believe is detrimental to the Christian thought process. But that same one aspect is also why I believe Waffle House is a better representative of Christianity. And the one aspect is this: Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. Now let me just provide you with a little bit of a disclaimer as we begin this sermon this morning. I believe that it's an awesome thing that Chick-fil-A closes their restaurant on Sunday and that their workers don't have to go to work. They can instead go to worship service like what we're doing right now at this moment of time to worship God in spirit and in truth. They can spend their time with their family. They can spend their time doing other things than working. And I think that's absolutely awesome. But I also believe that there is a damaging and defeating idea that exists within the church. And the damaging and defeating idea that exists within the church is this: that we as Christians do not work on Sunday. And I believe that it becomes even more damaging and even more defending when we phrase it in this way: that the only people who work on Sunday are those who are up front, out loud, and in a tie. And if that is true, that the only people who work on Sundays are those who are up front, out loud, and in a tie, then we have defeated the purpose for which the church of Christ was purchased with the blood of Jesus Christ. Now, I want to share with you this morning some reasons why I believe that Waffle House is the best embodiment of the church that belongs to Jesus Christ. And I'm going to give you a myriad of different reasons. But really my purpose for being here this morning is I want to build you up. I want to encourage you. I want the work at the Paintsville Church of Christ to take off in our community and to take off in our world. I want to encourage you to find that passion and that zeal and that fervor that you need to be able to work within the church. And I want to do so through this comparative sermon. Now, here's reason number one why Waffle House is the embodiment, or exemplifies, if you will, the church that belongs to Jesus Christ. Waffle House exemplifies the church because they have a purpose statement. Now, you might not know that Waffle House has a purpose statement, but they do. In fact, this is what their purpose statement reads. Waffle House restaurants have offered the unbeatable combination of good food with outstanding service since 1955. And this combination has made it a beloved icon of the South for over 60 years. Now, you know this, if you are in business, that if a company is going to achieve its purpose, then that company must first know the purpose that they are trying to achieve. And you might agree with me that sometimes people believe that the purpose that Waffle House is trying to achieve is heart disease. But these individuals know exactly the purpose for which they are created. But they also know exactly why they are going to achieve that purpose and the avenue or means by which they are going to go about achieving it. They know why they exist. And they also know exactly what they offer customers every single time a customer walks through their door. Their purpose is evidenced in their design. They have transparency. If you've ever been to a Waffle House, you know they don't try to cater your meal in a fancy appearance when it comes from a nasty kitchen. If you've ever been to a Waffle House, you know exactly that when you sit down in those booths, that they have an open kitchen, they make their food right in front of you, and you also probably can guarantee that it's going to be pretty good fruit. But you know what you're getting, and you know exactly what you're getting and where it's coming from. Their purpose is also evidenced in the service that they provide. Now, they know the purpose that they want to achieve, but they also know the means by which they are going to achieve that purpose. And they want their customers to receive the best possible customer service every single time you walk into their doors at any hour of the day. So if a company is going to achieve its purpose, that company must first know the purpose that they're trying to achieve. What about this? If the church that belongs to Jesus Christ is going to achieve its purpose, then she must first know the purpose for which she was created, the purpose for which she was purchased, the purpose that we are trying to provide. And the purpose of the church is to help cure the greatest disease that's ever been known to mankind. And that is the disease of sin. It's affected every single person who has ever lived. It's a heart disease, yes. But if a church is not a hospital for the sin sick, then that church is going to be quick to fail in its purpose. Because Jesus didn't just descend from heaven, leave all of his riches in his heavenly places, to come to earth, to live as a man, to be poor, to not have a place to rest his head, to die the death of crucifixion, to be resurrected again on the third day, just to leave behind no purpose. Jesus' purpose is seen in his cause. God sent his only begotten Son into this world to achieve a higher calling. And that's evidenced in Luke chapter 2. When Jesus is having a conversation with his earthly parents, after they had left him back in Jerusalem, and Jesus says, "Why do you seek me?" In verse 49. "Do you not know that I must be about my Father's business?" Now the question that we need to clarify is this. What is his Father's business? Well, he clarifies that later in Luke chapter 19, verse 10. And you can put Luke 19, verse 10 right next to Luke 2, verse 49. Here's his Father's business after he goes into the home of Zacchaeus. "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which is lost." If you were to purpose statement Jesus in one word, what would that one word be? Here it is, salvation. Jesus came to provide salvation, and he did so by dying the death of crucifixion and being resurrected on the third day, ascending back to the right hand of the throne of God where he is today, according to Colossians chapter 3. But his purpose is also seen in his church. So Jesus knew exactly why he came to earth. He knew the purpose from which he went to the cradle to the cross. But he also knew the means by which he was going to achieve that purpose. His church. You realize that we as the church have a purpose statement. We must know why we are here, yes. But we also must know why we exist. And I want you to know this morning that we have something that no one else has, the truth. But you know, if we're just trying to do what everyone else is doing, we're not going to stand out in a crowd. We're going to sink back into the consensus. And I don't know about you, but I'm not trying to sink. I'm trying to stand. I'm trying to be like the wise man in Matthew chapter 7. You remember you had a foolish man who built his house upon the sands. You had the wise man who built his house upon the rock. And when the winds came and the storms came, what happened? The wise man's house stood firm. He stood. But the foolish man's house did what? It sunk. It fell. I'm not trying to sink into the consensus. I'm trying to stand out for Jesus. I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to make a distinction between being of the world and being of God. I live in the world, yes, but I am not of the world. I am of God. Of all the places that you could be this morning, why are you gathered here in this building with this church? You know, some people view the church as a building that you go to on Wednesday night or Sunday morning or Sunday evening. But I'm here to tell you this morning, the building is not the church. The church is not a place. The church is a people. And the church is a people of believers that are alive with purpose, the purpose of Jesus. And then some people view the church as a place that they go in order to be served. But the church is not a place that you go to be served. The church is a place that you go to serve. Serve one another. Stir up love and good works. Exhort one another all the more as you see the day approaching. It's the purpose for which we have gathered. Hebrews 10 verses 24 and 25. A purposeless life is going to be a passionless life. But a purpose-filled life will be a potent life. And we've got to stop muddying our purpose, and in so doing our potency. Because if we want to be purposeful and potent in our community, we must first know why we are here and why we exist, and that is to save souls. But here's reason number 2 why Waffle House best exemplifies or embodies the church that belongs to Jesus Christ, because they provide a unique dining experience. I want you to further read the purpose statement with me of Waffle House. Waffle House restaurants provide a unique dining experience where regular customers are greeted by name and enjoy social interaction with their servers and also with their customers. Now, I do not believe that there has ever been a truer statement of any restaurant or establishment in the world that Waffle House provides a unique dining experience. Just go into Waffle House at about 3 o'clock in the morning and you're going to find a unique dining experience. Waffle House provides a unique dining experience, yes, but isn't there a powerful comparison to the church? When you think about the people who walk through these doors anytime at any hour, what should they find? A unique experience. For just a moment, I want to share with you some comments that were shared to me by others about their first experience with this congregation. One person said, when you walk into this church, you can feel the love. You suppose that's unique? Another person said, most churches that I have visited, they treat you like a number. This church treats me like I belong. You suppose that that's unique? Another person said, going away helped me realize how much I missed this church. You suppose that's unique? I mean, the pattern of the Lord's church is unique in the New Testament. The preaching of the Lord's church is unique in the New Testament. The purpose of the Lord's church is unique in the New Testament. The plan of salvation in the Lord's church is unique in the New Testament. The pursuit of the Lord's church is unique in the New Testament. And in a world that is constantly chasing emotionalism and entertainment and the vain pursuit of personal proclivities, the church needs to stand unique among the masses. But what must the Church of Christ at Paintsville do for us to continue to be unique? Well, it must involve sharing a hug. It must involve shaking a hand. It must involve sitting next to someone who is new. It must involve sharing a story. It must involve soaking in someone's struggles. It must involve serving one another. It must involve stirring up good works. It must involve sending, sharing, and soaking up love among us. And maybe this is a bleak outlook. I don't intend it to be. But every time we gather, sometimes in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is there someone in here who is ready to quit? Is there someone in here who is struggling? Is there someone in here who is sinking deep in sin? Is there someone in here who is looking for someone else to care about the things that are going on in their life? Is there someone in here who is looking for someone with whom they can share the struggles of their life? Is there someone in here who needs someone? And here's the encouragement to the whole church. Be that someone. I believe that there are two types of congregations. You have consumer congregations and you have contributing congregations. Now, a consumer congregation never moves past in its service and its sincerity to grow because they are transactional in nature. And what that means is I come here in the pews on Sunday in order to receive something, in order to get something. I don't come in order to give something. I don't come in order to gift something to someone else. That's a transactional mindset in the church. But then you have contributing churches. Now, a contributing church is going to amaze people at every single corner because they continue to grow, maybe even in areas where there is no growth. They continue to create opportunities, maybe in areas where there is no opportunity, but they're not transactional. They're not looking as to what they're going to get by being here. They're looking as to what they can give in being here. In other words, they are transformative. They're looking to help others transform their lives into the image of Jesus Christ as they themselves transform their lives. They are transformational, not transactional. Are you a transformational or a transactional Christian? Well, ask yourself. Are you more involved in the work of the church than you were 3 years ago? Or are you less involved? Or are you more stagnant? Are you a person who is giving more to the work of the church than you were 3 years ago? Or are you giving the same? Has your check stayed the same? Has your check decreased? Are you a person who is more involved in the lives of the Christians in this church than you were 3 years ago? Or are you less involved? Or are you stagnant in your involvement? We must not be a church of consumers. We must be a church that is willing to connect to the hearts of the crushed and of the cheerful. I'm so tired of people saying, I go to church. You don't go to church. Write it down. If you are His and He is yours, you are His church. Some at Waffle House did some research about their employees. And what they researched was a question. And the question was this: what do the employees at Waffle House enjoy most about working at Waffle House? Now, this is absolutely amazing. And I laughed a little bit when I read it. But it was two-word answer. And the answer was this: the people. Now, wait a second. You're talking about the same people that to these servers, sometimes they don't tip. And sometimes they're a little bit overly critical. And sometimes they might think that they're eating at a 5-star establishment, but they're at Waffle House at 2 o'clock in the morning. And these are the same people that sometimes are a little bit arrogant and they're just downright rude. But it was their favorite part of working at Waffle House. You know what the biggest problem, according to the servers and the workers at Waffle House, was? They asked the question, what do you not like about working at Waffle House? And this was their answer: they are understaffed. Now, wait a second. Is the Church of Christ at Paintsville understaffed? Is the Church of Christ in the United States of America understaffed? You know, most recent statistics in the churches of Christ in the United States of America suggest that 50% of congregations have 45 or less members. 39% of congregations have 45 to 200 members. We at the Paintsville Church of Christ would find ourselves in the 39%. 8% of congregations have about 200 to 400 members. 2% of congregations have 400 to 600 members. And 1% of congregations have over 600 members. Every single day when I pray for this congregation, in my prayer, I always say, God, give us more. I want more. I want more Christians. I want more growth. I want more activities. I want more Bible studies. I want more baptisms. I want more Christians fulfilling their purpose. I want more servers in the church. I want more workers of the church. I want more. And I know God wants more, but how do we achieve more? You know, one statement that I read about the 50% of congregations that have less than 45 members was absolutely alarming. This is what one member said of a congregation that had less than 45 members. We are in this shape because This is the number of people that one person can serve. Now think about that. A congregation of less than 45 members was reliant upon one person serving the entire congregation. In other words, they had one working elder among a plurality of elders, or they had one working member among a plurality of members, or they had one working preacher among a plurality of the congregation. They had one person who was serving everyone. And the truth of the matter is, if you want the church to grow, then it's going to involve us recognizing we have a part to play in growth. I mean, you think about Acts chapter 1, when Jesus ascends back to the right hand of the throne of God. The Bible tells me in verse 9 that the number of the disciples at that time was about 120. The next day, we have over 3,000 souls that are added to the church, according to Acts chapter 2, verse 38 through about verse 47. Now think about this scenario for a moment. What would happen if those apostles and those disciples had to serve all 3,120 souls by themselves? Would the church have grown? Would the church have been healthy? Would the church have been happy together? What about Acts chapter 6? Most estimate that by the time of Acts chapter 6, the church in Jerusalem had grown to be anywhere by about 6,000 souls. And then, of course, you remember that there's the problem that arises in Jerusalem. You have the Hebrew widows that are being neglected in the daily distribution. So the congregation takes it to the apostles, and the apostles say, we want you to appoint among yourselves 7 men for this task. And so they give 7 men this great task of serving these Hebrew widows that are being neglected in the daily distribution. Ask yourself the question, how hard would it have been for these 7 men to serve hundreds, if not thousands of souls by themselves? They work together instead of the 10% who are strong in faith serving the 90% who are weak in faith. How do you suppose the Paintsville Church of Christ would transform? How do you suppose the Paintsville Church of Christ would grow if the 90% helped the 10% who are weak in faith? And if we understand these two things, the church is going to be stronger today and tomorrow than it was yesterday. Here's number 1. Each person is a soul, and that soul is imprinted in the image of God. That's what Genesis 1 verse 27 tells me. And we become alive in the image of God by imitating the image of Christ. What if you gave another person the same attention that you believe you are deserving of as a Christian? What if you gave another person the same love that you believe that you're deserving of as a Christian? What if you served another person in the same way that you believe you need to be served as another Christian? How would that transform us? How would that help us? And here's number 2. We need to remember that we owe each other something. Romans chapter 8, verse 13, Paul said, owe no one anything. Big word, that's a small word. Except. Owe no one anything except to love one another. I owe you, and you owe me, and we owe each other. And here's what I owe you and what you owe me. Love. Are you following through what you vowed to pay to His people? But here is reason number 3 why I believe Waffle House exemplifies the church that belongs to Jesus Christ. Because they provide a transparent dining experience. Now, according to their purpose statement, this is what they say. All food is prepared fresh, it's cooked to order, it's served on real china in a kitchen that is out front and in full view. The combination of great food, fast service, and friendly experience makes Waffle House restaurants truly a unique American phenomenon. And I love this phraseology right here. They do everything, notice it, out front and in full view. You realize that the greatest tool that we have as New Testament Christians outside of the Word of God, outside of the Bible, is exactly what is in this auditorium right now at this moment of time. And you know what it is? It's you. It's Christians. but our faith, our hope, our love, our service must be out front and in full view. We must be real, we must be genuine, we must be sincere, we must be in our lives out front and in full view of the lost, so that they can see the great contrast that exists between a person who is of this world, who lives in this world, who lives and dies by this world, compared to a Christian who is not of this world, who is of God, who does not live and die by this world. When I die, I'm going to a better world, heaven. We must be transparent with our doctrine. We provide some great food. We have a lot of men in this congregation that can teach, that can preach. We have a lot of men who can feed souls spiritually. We must be ready to preach the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and we must speak as the oracles of God. We must be transparent with our sin. You realize that concealing, covering up, chasing our sin under a rug is never helpful to the work of the church. It is only hurtful to the work of the church. And you will reach more sinners if you will appear to be transparent about the struggles that you have in this life rather than appear to be inerrant. And thirdly, we must be transparent with our service. When's the last time that you served a Christian with a smile and not a frown? When's the last time that you served a Christian joyfully, gladly? You know, the food tastes better, doesn't it? The food tastes better when your server goes around and they have a smile on their face when they're serving the food. You ever been to a restaurant establishment where the waitress or the waiter didn't fulfill their purpose? What kind of experience did you have? You asked for water, you got coffee. You asked for eggs, you got steak. You asked for cake, you got oatmeal cakes or something. You didn't get exactly what you asked for. How was that experience? Well, it was terrible. And you probably, in your own way, try to let them know that the service is terrible here. The food is cold. The service is even colder. Let me tell you something about Christianity. When we fulfill our purpose and we serve each other in the church, it makes for a taste of heaven. It makes for a taste of heaven. I can't tell you the last time I went to Waffle House and the food tasted like heaven. But I can tell you the last time that I was in the church, as a member of the church, worshiping God as the church, and the worship service was a little taste of heaven. I want to put this job description up on your screens for a second. It is a needed job for a waiter or a waitress, but let me walk you through the requirements here for a waiter or a waitress who applies for this job. Number one, the candidate must be willing to work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Now, this job, it's going to consume your life. It's going to change your life. Yes, it'll make your life better, but it is going to fully consume your life. There is not a single day or a single hour off. Number two, a candidate must be willing to grow in knowledge and skills every single day. It means you must put the needs of others before yourself. It means you must humble yourself and greet each other with love and with a smile. It means that even if the customer does not like you, you must love them anyway. And you must have something kind to say. Number three, candidate must handle rejection and criticism well from customers. You know, just because they hate you, it doesn't mean you're the only one they hate. They hated your boss before they hated you. And this is a position that you must remain in for the rest of your life. In fact, there is not a single opportunity for job promotion. You're going to be a servant. You are going to be a server the rest of your life, and you must be content with that. But here's something else. The candidate will be offered the best retirement package in the world. But here's the thing. You cannot receive it until you die. In other words, you've got to be a server for 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, be willing to do all of these things for the entirety of your life. You cannot quit. You cannot retire. You don't retire from the work of the church. You depart from the work of the church. How many people do you suppose would be willing to sign up for this job position? The job is that of a Christian. Did you know that in the original Greek, The word diakonos, translated as servant, literally means one who waits on tables. So when Jesus said, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give His life as a ransom for many," the word that Jesus uses when He says serve literally means one who waits on tables. Did you know that Jesus was a waiter? Jesus came to serve us. Jesus came to make sure our glass was always full of living water. And if I am a servant of His, it means that I am a servant in the greatest establishment that has ever been founded, that has ever been bought, that has ever been purchased. And every single time I fulfill my purpose, I give others a little taste of heaven.